Hello.
Hi, Arushi.
How
How
are
are you?
you doing? I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. Hanging in, listening to,
Yes.
having conversations, trying to keep up the conversations.
I really
What
love
is
how you worded today's talk, Hope Floats. It's so beautiful. I mean, you all just make magic out of words, really.
really sweet? No, it was something that I wanted to, when I was focusing on on speaking about mental health and making it a little bit of a routine for my shows. As in, I mean, I try and do it once a week, or I try and do it at least twice, every second week. So I was like, we have to go beyond what we are feeling, because otherwise it's that constant rut that we'll find ourselves in, and we won't be able to move further, right? So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's an attempt to just keep us afloat, keep all of us afloat, keep me afloat.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I live by what I say. So it's not just about the people who are listening in, but it's about all of us as well, right?
I think that's so true. So, so, so true. I feel like at this time it's one community, but also catharsis. For so
Yes.
many people who are holding space for us to hold each other, I think this is the best way of us to even recuperate, right? So you said it very right. And I feel like everything you put out into the universe, at least this is what I think. Am I echoing?
Yes. No. No. You're good. You're good,
It comes
Arushi.
twofolds back. So if we put out hope, I'm sure it's going to come
Yeah.
twofolds back as well.
Yes. Yes. No, I think so too. And I think when you put out hope, you're at least, you have that smile that just allows everybody to, you embrace everybody with your smile, to be honest, Arushi. Honestly, you do.
Oh.
You really do. I think you do. You have that persona that allows people to come in. And I think not everybody, I don't think, I mean, a lot of people will want to come and share their life with me because, my mood switches. But I've always seen you with a smile, and that's a brilliant thing. And I think that's why you're in the right profession.
Thank you so much.
So I know you've had a really busy time, uh, personally and professionally, and it's amazing. But I'm going to go back to the professional today and start this conversation because I want to ask you, what has it been like, in the last few months for you all? I mean, at Trijog, have you seen uh, there's an increase in people coming in? Is it different kind of complaints that you're getting? What is really the sense that you're getting, or what's going on out there?
Absolutely. I feel like, so see, we have to understand that, I mean, at least like when we talk about India, not even, I mean, the world is such a big pool, but when we speak about India at large, if we're 2 million of us and we say 1 in 4 of us goes through something, at least at some point, we're talking about it being 35 crore people.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I think everybody has been, because you can't go out on the outside, you go on the inside. And when you go on the inside, that's when reflection begins. And in reflections, that's when you start feeling so much more. With Trijog, we saw a 10x growth in the last 1 year, whether it be, and I could say with the adult and the young adult population, and with the corporate market, with the entire corporate, sector as well, because now people are not ready to stay silent either. They're feeling
Yeah.
things and they want to reach out. They want answers. And if people have acted as their support systems, I feel like now more than ever. And the truth is that it does trickle down from the top. If you want anything to go grassroots, you're going to need your thought leaders to not only believe in it, but also do it themselves. For the first time, we've seen thought leaders turning very out of choice, not out of force, but out of choice towards wanting to talk about their feelings and figure out their mind. So, yeah, it has been a lot with work and a lot with holding this space, but I'm so happy that we were able to, Joe, 7 years back, the mental health market was not like this when we started off. And it gives me so much pleasure in this time to see such, so many springing young psychologists coming about, young companies coming about, because really more the merrier. It's going to take all of us together,
Yeah.
to make sure that we are reaching out to innumerable lives. So yes.
So is there finally like hope for us as a society? Is there a cultural shift in how we're now finally looking at mental health, the stigma that has always followed us? whether we like it or not. Is there a sense that it's become a little bit more open now, the conversations?
Absolutely. I feel like, at least for our country, whenever anything goes mainstream, that means people are more open to it,
Mm.
right? But the most beautiful shift for us to see was content creators, get into the space of talking about mental health, and not from being an academic on it, but from being a subject on it. There is this new surge in meme pages, you know, that says, I am my caffeine rush. It's just motivating. You're taking different spins on different things. We are trying to build in humor with mental health. We're trying to, and the best part is, there's not that now, it's not only psychologists who are doing it. All stakeholders are coming together to do it. So whether it's a creator, whether it is a CEO, whether it is somebody from film, art, music, the corporate world, everybody's talking about it, because I think finally, Joe, we've woken up and realized that the one thing that we all have, divide caste, creed, geography, gender, is a mind. And it's high time that, we started looking at it. So definitely there is hope. And there is hope because this is why we're having this conversation. And I am so sure that 10 years from now, because of the way the youth understands mental health, the way we are going to take it forward to our generations is going to be so empowering. We are going to build a very emotionally resilient world. I am sure there is hope.
No, I think so too. I find, the youth anyway, when I was researching my book, Arushi, I found that a lot of them were willing to speak about it, were openly speaking about it. And, they were still struggling to find a path as to where should they go, who should they meet. But at least, it was not taboo in their minds, and it was not something they wanted to hide, which I think was a brilliant start. And as you said, the pandemic has of course brought out everything into the open, but you just mentioned the corporates, and that's one point I wanted to bring out, because when we're talking about burnout,
Mhm.
it's the corporate world that we're really been looking at. I mean, there are people who are non-corporates as well, who are working from home, but I think there's just, firstly, tell me something before we go ahead. How does a person identify the difference between anxiety, depression, burnout, stress? What is it that will allow a person to understand, that they are burnt out? They need to step back.
So there are 5 stages of burnout that we go through. The stage one is known as a honeymoon phase, where you are so kicked by the things that are happening around you that you have this surge of motivation. You want to take on any challenge, and you're going to go to any length to want to do it. But then when that becomes a pattern, you go into something that we understand as onset of stress, where you do start feeling. So stress manifests itself in different ways in different human beings. It could be psychosomatic as aches or pains. It could be anxiety, the ghabrahatness that we feel. It could be restlessness. It could be anger. It could be reacting instead of responding. It could also be shutting down. So the way stress manifests is also very individual, very unique to every individual. So the second stage is the onset of stress. After the honeymoon phase, what happens is there's onset of stress, wherein you are noticing that there is something happening, let's say, in your body, but are we acknowledging it? We don't know. Are we doing something about it? We don't know. And let's say the frequency of it, right, Joe, is not too much. After the second level of stress, which is onset of stress, we go, because we keep prolonging it, we go into chronic stress. In chronic stress, everything hits the roof. Everything hits the roof. You start feeling palpitations, your concentrations go haywire. You're really, really finding marked changes in your stress levels, and they start showing in different facets of your life. It could be interpersonal relationships, it could be work, it could be just the way you eat your food, it could be something as much as just your appetite, the way you're sleeping, your sleep patterns would get disturbed. After chronic stress, what happens is what we all are. I think we've gone through the 1 year. We actually went through all 5 stages. I'll share experiences,
Sure.
but after chronic stress comes burnout, and that is when you really, really, go. That's when there is loss of engagement. You don't feel motivated by the things around you, and you're just really, really tired. You're demotivated. You don't know why. Your energy levels are on a all-time low, and it's increasingly difficult to cope. So when you feel like it's very difficult to be reinstated into what you're doing, that's when you are feeling, you're burnt out. And what most of us are going through right now is the fifth stage, habitual burnout, when it has become so much a part of your life that you don't know a life without it. So you're every day experiencing constant amounts of anxiety, emotional distress, physical distress, mental distress, but you're okay with it. Why are you okay with it is the question we should be asking everybody. And that is when hope comes into the picture, because it's okay not to be okay, and that's okay. But would you always want to keep feeling like that? That's a question you need to ask yourself. So, yeah, I think habitual burnout has struck. That's where we are all at. And that's like when you reach mental exhaustion, fatigue, and many more.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let's just take a break. You know, you can't keep pushing yourself. So, I'm aware of the fact that sometimes I'm pushing myself a little bit too much. But tell me, how does a person identify that for himself or herself, as a layman?
If you're losing interest in everyday activities that actually put out a smile on your face, if you're feeling tired more often than not, if you are feeling disengaged, I would say those are the three best ways of noticing that, hey, you need rest to reset. You know, we do things because they make us happy. At least they make us feel motivated. But yeah, also, I think loss in appetite, a lot of increase in appetite, any irregularity than what you see, that your body is comfortable doing, you are feeling some amount of stress.
So, what was fascinating for me from what you said a little bit earlier was the fact that we're all suffering burnout and we're at that stage. And it's not just, so obviously, it's not just limited to, because burnout in our normal minds is something that's related to work, stress of going to work. It's sitting, it's working, it's corporate life. Okay, we've got stuck sitting at home, work from home. And what you're saying now is that burnout could also be as a part of what we're going through post the pandemic. What post? I mean, we're still in the pandemic. I mean, COVID has also
Absolutely.
led to like a burnout, which is fascinating for me, actually.
That is it. Why are we so burnt out? It's not because it's not, okay, sure. A lot of people may be working tireless
Yeah.
hours, during right now, but that's not why we're burnt out. We're burnt out because of the collective loss and grief. We're burnt out because of survivor's guilt. We're burnt out because of the extrinsic factors around us that we're letting enter our intrinsic locus of control. We're not separating our circle of concern and our circle of control anymore. And that is why we all are so burnt out. We're allowing everything on the outside to affect us on the inside. When the truth is, why do we let things in the outside affect? Why do we let the things that we can do nothing about affect our locus of control, which is the only thing that we can do something about, which is our thoughts, feelings, and emotions? But well, we're human, right, Joe? So
How do you, how do you, how do you then motivate again? That's that demotivation that's gone now because, we thought, okay, at the end of 1 year, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. But from where we are now, this year seems to be a goner, right? So how do you now motivate people to move forward when there's just more of the same that's constantly hammering at us?
So I think simple pleasures. That would definitely be number one. We do not, we as a society equate success with self-worth, and we need to switch that. We need to start equating your self-worth with success. Now, what's going to help you feel motivated? See, take what we all have things that we like. I don't think there's any human being can say, nahi, mujhe nahi acha lagta kuch bhi, We all have things that we like. How you eat that cracker should be pleasurable. Find pleasure in that. How you wake up and talk to your plants should be pleasurable. How you water them should be pleasurable. The sun's hitting your face, give gratitude. The rays are beautiful. We need to start giving gratitude to our simple pleasures because honestly, and I have really seen this as a manifestation in my own life, the more gratitude you give, the more greatness you attract. The more lack you give, the more void you attract. And that's just the way it's going to be. So, number one, to feel motivated, guys, simple pleasures. How you drink your water and feel it quenching your thirst. For the first time, we can pay attention to these things, so why not? how you greet your loved ones around you. There is so much pleasure in that as well. Why are we running behind the tangible when in the intangible lies all of our strength? So I feel simple pleasures, number one. Secondly, a routine. A routine, Joe, does not mean that, you are at it 24/7. A
Yeah.
routine means that you have trained your mind to give some kind of structure to your day. You've tricked yourself into finding purpose for yourself. When you pre-prepare yourself for anything, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to look forward to this, you're pre-preparing yourself. That's beautiful again. So don't lose a sense of routine. Routine can be different for everybody. And I'm telling you, it's always the little most things. Please make your own routines. It's going to really help you. Start making something called the done list at the end of the day instead of a to-do list. A done list is is hey, I woke up in the morning, take. I had, I whipped myself some breakfast, take. I could breathe all through today, take. There's so much to be grateful about. So build in a sense of gratitude that will bring in purpose, routine, simple pleasures. And I think another very important thing is we stop looking at the basic things of our health, nutrition, and diet: sleep, water, exercise. Your body works that way. Nobody in the world can do anything about that. We are born that way. It's our genetic makeup. So yeah, let's go back to the basics, and we'll all be slightly more centered and feel more hopeful. Yeah.
When you're talking about that to-do list, I was laughing because I have never completed a to-do list in time ever,
Right?
ever.
What's a to-do list?
You know, my husband is always trying to, he's like, how many reminders do you have for the same thing? Because I keep taking that to-do list forward and I'm like, okay, next, the same list gets copied onto a fresh piece of paper and it's there. Every day I say, I'm going to do this. But yes, this is a sense that I'm getting as well when I've spoken to somebody else, that routine is extremely crucial, whatever kind of routine. And I've also found out, at least for myself, Arushi, is that let me not get into the rat race of even something as basic as exercising. I'm not talking professionally, I'm talking personally.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, of a trainer, of a yoga. Recently I've just let my yoga trainer go, I've let my trainer go. I just do everything on my own at my time. But at least I feel like I'm doing more because it's in my mind that there is a certain amount that I have to attain. And I was just getting fed up of doing the same online. I don't know. I mean, I may be wrong, and I may have to go back very soon with all that eating. But my sense was I'm doing the same thing again and again and again for the last year and a half, sitting inside doing this online. It's not giving me any joy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm just trying to keep I don't know whether it's right or wrong. Keep active as much as I can with whatever works for me. One day it's going for a run, but in this temperature, it's awful. One day I try and bike. One day I'm just sitting at home and I say, okay, I'll just, stretch for 15 minutes. But I'm not trying to put any pressure on myself. Maybe I'm wrong.
Absolutely. No, I think that's another thing with us human beings, right? What is right and wrong? You said it so
Yeah.
well. There is the question is there is nothing that's right and wrong. It's what works for you. And nobody sitting on the outside can let you know what works for you on the inside. You live with yourself in your mind and your body. How can anybody else tell you how to go about it? If we just close our eyes, reflect, and ask ourselves before we sleep or when we wake up, who am I? And what will make me feel hopeful today? You've got all of your answers. Then you just need to go. I was having a conversation with somebody who I respect a lot, and he told me, Arushi, there are always two things. There'll either be a life of action or a life of reason. You have to choose which one do you want to live. And action could be the smallest thing, Joe, like going for the bike ride yourself. The reason could be not, and if you get stuck in reason, you'll always just be reasoning or giving reasons for why not instead of actually doing that action. So yeah, I think that resonated with me a lot.
But how do we take those forward, who've lost family members or who lost a job, they're financially insecure at this point. How do we motivate that section of people? They've plummeted to the lowest, you know, physically, mentally, in all aspects. How do we then get them up to say, There's light at the end of the tunnel when when you've lost a family member.
So I think coping with grief and loss at any stage for anybody it's the toughest kind of thing to cope with.
Yeah.
So the first thing is for everybody around us who has suffering and immense misery, which we may relate to it, but it may not happen may have happened not in the same degree to us, is we need to let the person grieve. So for everybody who's grieving right now, there is no time frame to when one can get over grief. But everybody grieves in their own way. So know that you should, and it is okay to vent and grieve, because that is the only way you are at some point going to be able to be able to cope. Letting out and letting go. Nobody can ever change the past, Joe, ever. But what we really can do is, in the present, let go of everything inside us so that we're moving to reinstate ourselves. Now, it's very easy for you and I to sit here out of privilege and say, hey, let go. Hey, have self-compassion. But when everything around you is crumbling, how do you be kind to yourself? How do you let go? It's times like this that I think I wish I had all of the answers, but I don't, because life is a long journey of learning. But I do know one thing, that whenever we don't have the answers, let's look at what we do have, which is nature. We all, devoid of, where we come from, everybody experiences the sun rising and setting every day. So if the sun has been so ever resilient for billions of years, we should too. Look up at the sky, and a cloud is ever moving. That will give you hope. That change is the only constant, but you got to hold on. And that is something you got to do. So I feel like it's beautiful how community is coming together really in this time and building the sense of hope. We will come out of it. And for everybody really who feels like, there is no hope, it's okay to feel that way for a while. Let it out. Look at the little signs of nature. And I really hope that makes you feel hopeful again.
So, I wonderfully said though, Arushi. Wonderfully. Change is really the only constant. And I think we've had more than our share of it the last year and a half, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And I agree with you about the fact that the communities have come together. But I also have on the other side this young journalist who's a fantastic journalist, who told me that he quit his job, his dream job, 2 months into it, because he felt like he was in the midst of burnout, and he was anxious, and he was going through the whole phase, as you had mentioned earlier in the talk. And he felt that nobody was listening to him at the work. The bosses were not empathetic enough. And at some point, he just quit, and he said, I'm just going to leave. I'll find a job when I have to, but right now I need time out. And he's quit, and good for him, I say. But how do we deal, especially with employees across the board? Corporate India is another story. Corporates across the world are different, actually. How do we deal with employers who are not empathetic, who are not understanding?
So you can only do what is in your locus of control, number one, because at the end of it, you're going to feel like how this young boy felt, okay? Secondly, they're across the board, and let's be very candid about this, even though a lot of corporate India is investing into the mental health of their employees, they're doing it because they don't want somebody to turn around and say, hey, you're not non-empathetic. It's not because they're empathetic. They're doing it because it would help motivate their people to reach their top lines. That's why they're doing it. So to every corporate employee out there, I would ask this question. What do you equate your self-worth with? Does success define your self-worth, or does your self-worth define your success? Ask yourself that, because the minute you can be honest with yourself, build your core values, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're a freelancer, whether the world, of course, the world will move on from this pandemic, you will be stronger. And right now, you need to build your strength and not be a reflection to anybody else's mirror. So be honest with yourself. No, you can't ask people to empathize with you. If I ask somebody to change for you, if I asked you to change for somebody, would you? No, you'd say no. Why? You can never ask anybody to
No,
change.
you can't. Yeah.
But you should strengthen your own self, that a person's behavior does not have the power to affect you because the core, your self worth, has already become so high. So, yes, I really, really believe we all need to start building self. And that is what the journey everybody needs to get onto. We all are going to feel a lot more reinstated
So how
collectively.
so how do we get onto that journey? That's my last question for you, Arushi.
Four things, Joe. I believe to really build a purpose of self, what are you doing for yourself in a week, in a month, in a day? Okay, one thing a month for the self-care, because your self does so much. Second thing, so self-immunity. With self-immunity, there are a couple of areas, of four namely, that I'm going to be talking about that we need to be doing to build the self. Emotional immunity. How is it that you are building your emotional immunity? Are you taking therapy? Are you journaling? Are you, learning different content, self-help content, which can help you build on your immunity? That's number one. Second, physical immunity. What are you doing to make sure that those endos are kicking in? Biology, it works that way. Third, spiritual immunity. What are you doing to connect with the universe? You're a universe baby. We still don't have answers to how the sun rises and how it sets. Wouldn't we want to just connect with that and, build our vibrations so that we build our intuition quotient so high that things like this, empathy of another person, them reacting instead of responding, we're able to, one, navigate through it better. Second, even respond to it in a much more effective manner. So third would be spiritual. And fourth would be social. We all are physically distant, but not socially distant. And we need to make that difference. So socially, what are you doing to keep that alive? Automatically, if you build these four things just into your every month routine, you are going to build a purpose of self much higher, and you are going to feel more hopeful. I can only say it because I've really tried to live by this, and yeah, feeling hope is a beautiful feeling.
No, hope
I
is a
hope that
beautiful
helps.
feeling. It does. It does. I'm going to actually go back and listen to all of this again for the simple reason that there are many pointers you've given me, and there's a lot that I totally agree with. And the routine one is very big for me. I've been realizing that a lot recently, that whichever way, I mean, just have something to look forward to and something to tick off at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that I have just done this, instead of thinking, and otherwise, it just becomes like, I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, I'll do it day after. And I keep pushing it because I don't want to do it. And then I don't feel like, why am I pushing myself? But I think there has to be a balance. You've got to push yourself a
Mm-hmm.
little bit and yet be kind to yourself. I always say that,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I think self-compassion will take us places. Joe, we are so harsh on ourselves. We say, you're so lazy,
Yes.
you're not doing this right, da 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 da. Imagine if a loved one came and said, I'm being so lazy, how would you respond? You would say, no, no, you've got it together. It's all okay. You will do better. Why can't we say those same things to ourselves? So it's
Oh,
really about managing our inner critique and being more compassionate. Let's just be kind to the mind, to ourselves, and the world at large. It'll make such a difference.
wonderful. And as someone said, Arushi, your smile, so I've been seconded on that.
Y'all are so kind.
kindness kindness begins on Instagram. That's the old word. Your mind. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're busy, as you said, got more people coming in and looking at you for help and the way forward. So I'm really happy that you have been able to finally take out some time. I know you're very busy personally as well. So all the best to you.
Thank you so
And
much,
we
Joe,
will
for
we will connect again soon,
yes, of
Arushi.
course. Thank you so much for all you do
Thank
and how you
you.
tirelessly make sure that the truth just keeps going out. I'm in awe of people who can, who write as well as you do. And thank you for being such a, fulcrum part of the change that we all are driving together. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
having me.
you.
Have a good
Thank
evening. Love
you.
to both your kids and your husband. Take care.
Done.
Have a lovely
Bye.
evening. Bye.
Bye.